Good evening, everyone. Today we have with us Major Chaitanya Pandey. Sir has joined us from the United States of America as he's right now there with Amazon at L8. He's a director with Amazon. Sir is ex 96 course NDA 106 regular IMA. And since his academy days, he has been someone who was focused. I've been told that he was made the cross country captain for Lima's Con, and after a big hiatus of around 20 years under his captainship, Lima got the glider in when he was the cross country captain. So, for all those who have been in India and IMA and OTA, they understand the importance of winning the cross country championship. Sir served for around 10 odd years in the core of EME and then did his MBA from ISB Hyderabad and been in Amazon after that since last 12 plus years. He has risen through various appointments and right now he has been in the United States for approximately 3.5 years. So today he has joined us to guide other officers into transition and career progression. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Welcome.
Thank you, Vipul. Thank you for the kind words, and the research behind. Very excited to be here with the group to share a few tidbits from my experience and talk to the group. Very, very excited to be here. A very good evening to all the officers out there, and hope this is a lovely interaction and we'll keep it interactive as well.
Right, sir. So the format is that first half an hour or so, I'll be doing a chit chat with you, and then we'll open the house to questions from the audience. And I'll ask a very generic question, sir, so that just to set the tone. What has been your journey after moving out from army, step by step, from where it was and where you are right now, sir?
Sure. Probably let me take a step back and do a quick introduction, even through the armed forces career that I had. So, and keep this a little longer just so that everybody gets the context of my journey. So, belong to Kanpur, first generation army officer. Nobody, in my family behind me was the first one to actually land into NDA. Post NDA, IMA got commissioned in 2000. I got commissioned in the Corps of EME. My attachment was with Garhwal in the Valley. So a couple of years in the Valley, some great experiences. Thereafter, again back in the Valley, north of Srinagar, of course, in most cases. So with the Corps of EME, then I spent a couple of years with the Air Defense Regiment workshops. I had a couple of assignments there, and then in the year 2009 and 2010 is exactly when I quit the armed forces. I went to ISB. I was, of course, not the youngest of the people there doing an MBA, and those are also very different set of years. Like I think over the last 10 years, things have changed quite a bit. So I did my MBA from ISB. Then thereafter, I joined Amazon. Again, Amazon in those days was how would I call it? It was not as big as what it is right now. It was not as prominent as what it is right now. Even the brand in India was not, as visible. Uh, I would say I was one of the first few officers from the armed forces to join Amazon in India, and it was also slightly different sort of a role. These days, we see a lot of armed forces officers joining Amazon in different roles, including warehousing, operations, and so on and so forth. Whereas at that point of time, Amazon India didn't exist. There were no warehouses, there was no customer base. Actually landed in a corporate role straight away into Amazon. So a couple of months, Amazon didn't know what to do with me, and I didn't know what to do with Amazon. But then, as we kind of started moving, we realized that there's a lot to be done. There's a lot to be accomplished. There's a lot of problems that need to be solved if Amazon was to be successful both globally as well as in India. Launch operations, which eventually happened in 2014. So started my journey in Amazon as I don't know if everybody's heard about it, but Amazon has got this worldwide leadership program called Pathways. That's the one that I joined and started working towards. First couple of years, did a variety of assignments and tried to solve a variety of problems that existed. Thereafter, in 2014, I switched directions and I started to work towards customer trust and website fraud protection, like, something very new and different, and should not be confused with, theft at warehouses or things like that. What I'm talking about is a website based, how our customers, how do we protect them from bad actors? Just to give you an example, let's say, if Vipul is joining if Vipul is trying to shop on Amazon, is he using the right payment instruments? Is he using the right payment, or is he authorized to use those? Is it Vipul who's shopping, or is it somebody else who's shopping on the Amazon platform? These are the kind of problems I started to kind of work and toil with in Amazon in those years in 2014. And these were big problems which Amazon was experiencing. So along with this, over years, as I solved, there were various new challenges. So when you, as it happens in the army as well, when you solve for something and you solve for it right, you get more of it. Yeah. So there were various other things that kept coming my way thereafter. The Amazon was actually selling, more products on the seller side of the world. So then over the next 5, 6 years, I was involved in helping build seller risk. Is it a good seller or not who's selling to Vipul? Is somebody playing around with the reviews of the website, and so on and so forth. So that was a great experience. I can talk a little bit more about it in detail. I'll not bore the audience with those, but that journey of next 5, 6 years was really instrumental in helping me grow along this journey. I kind of took up various assignments in terms of, being a senior site leader, a general manager of operations, then a country leader. And eventually, by the time in 2017 and 18, I was the global director for risk operations. In this portfolio, I actually was managing teams across different countries. So by about 2017, I got this opportunity to handle teams beyond India, which was again a huge learning experience for me. I had not done it in the past with limited exposure. So I started managing these teams, which were based in, let's say, US, in India, in Europe, and so on and so forth. So that was a good, interesting time for me as well. 2018, as and when this happened, my you know my leader asked me that since I'm any which was managing a global team, should I want to relocate to Seattle? At that point, the self in me and various situations advised me not to, and I decided to continue in Hyderabad itself. So I was based in Hyderabad, by the way. So as luck would have had it, I realized that I was spending more time in the flight than at work. In that particular year, I probably traveled more than 10 times to Seattle back and forth, and realized that I'm best suited and placed to be able to do this job from Seattle than anywhere else. 2019, I shifted to Seattle and then took over the appointment of a global buyer operations director. Thereafter, 2020 onwards, I lead the last mile customer service. Just to put this in perspective, what does it mean? If you are anywhere in the world calling Amazon because of a package issue, then it probably will lead or land somewhere in my team. So if there's any customer in Amazon across any country, be it Japan, India, Europe, US, it'll probably land somewhere in my team. If there is a transportation or a driver issue happening anywhere in the world, it'll probably land somewhere in my team. If it is an issue related to fresh and grocery deliveries that is occurring with Amazon is trying to grow big in grocery deliveries. It's not yet there in India, but in other countries it is. Then probably it'll land somewhere in my team. Just to give perspective of size, scale of it, the team actually comprises of more than 10,000 people. These people are spread across 45 sites in 23 countries. They speak 15 languages. I don't do all of this. Fortunately, I have a management team of 500 people who kind of manage these operations, and I run these through different country leaders and directors who run these operations for me. There's a director for India, there's a director for East Asia, Europe, Africa, Europe, and US. So, and if I was to talk about the size, scale, or the impact, at the end of it, it's about $300 million. So about 2,400 crores is what is is the kind of work that happens across the team. So again, it impacts more than 60 million customers a year. So it's an exciting space to be. Very fortunate to be helping Amazon. And of course, this growth has been organic. Amazon transportation was way smaller than what it is today. And I've been a part of this journey. Personal front, married, 2 kids. My spouse has had a long career as well. She pursues. She was a leader in Deloitte in India. She's always pursued her career, and now she works for Amazon as well. After we relocated here, she's in the HR space and is a senior leader supporting these things. Two kids, 6 and 12. That's what keeps me busy when I'm not at work.
Now, sir, I mean, with this, I do have some threads wherein I would like to ask more questions out of your what you just told me. But एक बात clear है that a lot of people now know if they have to get a replacement or if things are not reaching home, they can reach out on the Fortinet because that's what. So
I
my
hope I'm
question,
able to help.
yeah, sir, my question about that fraud and risk world because you kind of put it in a different way from what at least my understanding is the way Fauji's look at that or so what how is it different in what you were doing vis-a-vis what the way we understand risk or fraud or compliances in the Forge or Fauji generally don't do that kind of a fraud and risk which you are trying to I mean I couldn't really understand that.
Yeah, and that's a very relevant question. So you will see a lot of army officers, ex-army officers, in loss prevention. So loss prevention is essentially making sure that our warehouses don't lose things. There's no theft happening. It's a loss prevention is that space, and you will see a lot of army officers employed in that space or working in that space. That's the But what I was doing is not loss prevention per se. It was not the loss of physical goods, let's say on a warehouse setup. It was more of making sure that the bad actors. So whenever you have something that is working well, there are a lot of bad actors that come to spoil the party. If Amazon is making sales today, Amazon is making sales worth $400 billion in a year. So there are a lot of bad actors across the world which are trying to sneak into the website, steal payment instruments, try and impersonate as somebody else, try and use their credit card. There are bad sellers who are trying to come onto the platform and entice you to buy something from them who will actually never ship anything to you, or there is somebody who's trying to play around with the reviews so that you end up liking the product and buying it. There is somebody who's trying to sell you a Nikkei instead of Nike. There's somebody who's trying to do some intellectual property theft and show you something that you might believe is different. So this is called bad actor activity, and customer trust is the space that it is called. So if you lose this, if you get it wrong once, you lost the customer forever. And if you buy a counterfeit once from Amazon, you lose it forever. So this is a very highly invested space, and Amazon obviously takes this very, very seriously. But then this space is also driven by machine learning systems, technology behind. There's no physically somebody who's trying to guard something here. It's mostly technology driven, and and there is obviously people involved in it when they make decisions that okay, we don't want to do business with the seller, or we want to close the seller's account. That's when we make decisions, but those decisions then feed into the systems to ensure that Amazon stays protected. So this is what is the fraud space that I'm talking about, and anything where a bad actor is trying to spoil the party by doing something wrong versus the normal process is what is called the risk space. In the industry, it is called customer trust. Google calls it risk and safety. So we should not confuse this with the safety of a building, which is normally a security thing. It is trust and safety of the platform. So if somebody goes and posts something, let's say on YouTube, which is not the content that Google wants it there, so it's a safety of the platform issue. So you have to have your machine learning systems, you have to have your algorithms to run to make sure that this is happening right. So that's the space that I was talking about, where I've invested a lot of my time and career and was also very foundational in my journey in Amazon.
Would I be amiss to say that it's kind of the basic hygiene of being in an e-commerce business where what you are trying to say that where my experience as a customer gets defined by the way the systems I'm interacting with are and would that be somewhat what
Yes.
that space is?
I think that that's the right way to think about it, is basically making sure that the customers continue to trust us as a brand, as a platform, as an e-commerce provider, and there is no experience where they end up engaging with a supplier or a ordering experience or a payment experience where we lose their trust. And it started with something two, three, four, but at the end of it, by the time I left this team in 2020, there were 40 different ways in which bad actors can game the system, and we need to protect our customers against it. So it's a huge space. In fact, this is one space which is growing much faster than Amazon itself because of the sheer potential. If there is a sale, Diwali sale happening, it is quite likely that a large number, XX% of it, there are bad actors who are trying to make the most of that sale versus our customers, and we need to stop that. And that's what the risk systems are all about. Make sense?
I'll now pivot back to the basic theme of today's meeting. When you were leaving, what preparations did you undertake for leaving after 10 years? And you yourself said that Amazon was not what it is now 13 years ago. So what it was that you kind of, I'm sure as an ex-NDA, you're not really exposed to the world outside. What specific steps did you take for your transition?
Good question, and you're right. The world was quite different at that point of time. The level of awareness, the level of information out there, which we have today, was not even 100th in those days. But good things like I still had a few people to reach out to understand how's the outside world, how does it work, and they were kind enough to give me some threads of knowledge, some threads of wisdom that I could catch on to and prepare myself. Again, it was a lot to do with for me. I always thought about this as marathon, a long journey, and I wanted to make sure that I prepare myself for it. And also, I think before leaving, I had to be very sure, why do I want to leave? Why do I want to quit? What's the rationale of me doing it? These are important conversations I think one needs to have with themselves. And I wish we talked a little bit more about this topic, because I see that this is a big thing that sometimes you don't do as much. To give you an example, I was living at a time in 2009, 2010. So 2009-10 is when the after effects of the 2008 crisis started hitting India. The job market had turned upside down. And but then my rationale for leaving was I wanted a different set of experiences. I wanted to acquire new skills in life. I wanted to learn something new. My rationale for leaving was not I wanted a job that pays me more. When the crisis hit, I realized that maybe I had like hundreds of people who were wanting to quit. Suddenly the queue changed to just a few. Everybody who earlier wanted to quit did not want to anymore. Hey, Ami is okay. It's a good place to be in. And Suddenly the perspective changed when the recession hit. But then my rationale of leaving was still there. So if you ask me about the preparation, I think the number one and the biggest preparation is one needs to be very clear. Why do you want to quit and what do you want to achieve out of this whole thing? If one is just leaving for a slightly different job, or what's the rationale, I think one has to be very, very clear about it. And that's the most ambiguous space I feel when I've spoken to officers over the years. That clarity is a must, and that clarity is the most missing as well at times. Post that, I think, since it was I was leaving at 10 years with no backup and everything, I had to make sure that I invest in myself, so to say. I think that's the most important asset I have as a part of the family, is me, myself, and investing in that is important. And I would say this to all the officers out there, that there are a lot of assets that we own. There is nothing better than investing in yourself. So obviously, I did my share of research over time. I made sure I prepared myself. I obviously invested in a MBA degree through ISB. Through that journey, I learned a whole bunch to prepare myself for the longer run. So that pretty much, are the investments. The journey is long. It took a couple of years for me to realize the investments that I want to make in myself. And these are not easy decisions either. That, should I go for an MBA now, or should I can do it later after I've earned a couple of, this thing, after I'm financially more stable. And those are risks and trade-offs that everybody makes, depending on where they are.
So, sir, would you, as a blanket statement, say that officers who are wanting to move out, say after 10, 12, 14 years of service, doing an MBA from a reputed B school like ISB or IIMS would help them in their career?
I would not say this as a blanket statement for sure. You know, everybody is in a different phase, journey, expectations of life. What do you want to get out of life after leaving? Are you looking for a life which doesn't require you to move too much? Or are you looking for a life or you're wanting to slog your way through in the corporate world? What do you want is for, I think the most important answer first one needs to address what do you want out of it? And if the answer comes back that, hey, I want to acquire new skills, I want to slog my way through in the corporate world, in that case, and again, different people have different perspectives, and I'm not saying my perspective is the right one, but my research understanding got me to a point which said investing in my own self through proper education where I get different perspectives, rub shoulders with people who bring in a different perspective from myself is going to add value, and I still hold that ground. I don't regret investing in myself even for a minute, and I still strongly believe that that was the right decision. Now, people might have different reasons or rationale why they want to quit. Somebody might want to start up a business for themselves. Somebody might want to do different things. So it depends on where you are and what do you want. This is one of the options that worked for me. But then my rationale of quitting the army was also not the same as someone else might have.
So now I'm going to ask you two personal
But it
questions.
definitely helped. So the skills that I acquired helped me a long way in terms of my journey, in terms of my growth opportunities, the diverse set of skills that I could work into, diverse set of roles that I could do. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
So ISB education was an investment which helped you in terms of moving ahead and kind of, you know, at least getting a jump start from after having quit Forge.
Of course, yes. It absolutely helped me, and I'm sure it can help a lot of people. Again, if one is looking to do this education for getting a tag, that's a normal word I think people use. I want this tag, then it's not worth it. Trust me, it's not worth it. If one is looking to, okay, I want to learn, I want to understand, then it probably is worth the investment. It costs a lot of money. Let's be very clear about it. So it depends what we want to do. The worst thing that one can do is to probably go and invest in themselves, get to one of these colleges, and then not learn. Still keep writing the same experiences that you've had. And I've had these experiences. I can tell you that we are doing a case study. There's somebody else. We are trying to solve for a problem. Through core analytical solutions and modeling and all of that. And so when in that space, then let's be that space. Let's learn how to model. Let's learn how to do this. If you're going there in this situation, you say, this is not relevant. When I was in the valley, this happened, that happened, and that happened, and that happened. This is not critical. Then one should not invest. One has to be uh, very clear that I want to learn these things, not do this for the sake of tag. You know,
So, okay, if someone is genuinely wanting to say develop and transition mentally also, then this kind of education is going to be a good stepping stone.
absolutely. It helped me, get to the level of, people who are out there. The average experience was far lesser than what I carried, but it also helped me think on how they think. Majority of my teams have been people from these institutions over a period of time. I still say majority of people that I have in at least in India are also alumni of these institutions. So knowing how they think, what can I leverage them on, what are their capabilities, and so on so on is important, and that helped me understand as well where do they come from and so on so. And it's important to speak the same language, correct? If you can't speak the same language, what some of these people speak, and most corporate leadership would have gone through some sort of an MBA somewhere. It's important to know what that language is, and it helps.
Sir, I'll now dwell a bit in your personal space and ask you some personal questions here. So, you said that ma'am has also been a working professional in the corporate, and you have been in Amazon now uh, for quite some time. Given the fact that these are pretty engaging job roles. So how do you balance that work, life, family, both of you, and how does it? I mean, how would it actually work out for a working couple with that kind of work pressure?
I think it falls in place. It's not, and everybody has their own ways of making sure that such kind of things do fall in place. What one thing that I've obviously ensured is, and I had this even before, like she was still in the corporate world even before I quit, was to always make sure that she continues her, job and everything, and doesn't have to compromise. In fact, this was one of the many reasons why I wanted to change careers and lanes. Is I wanted her to continue her passion, work, and this thing, and have always made sure that she is able to do that. We've made some big decisions in life. The first international job offer that came to me was in the year 2014. Probably she was not ready to make that transition. And if we had moved, then she would have had to leave something and may not have got something on the other side of the world, which was not how I wanted to operate. I said, okay, let's not move, let's stick around here. And there were other reasons as well why we wanted to stick around. So at the end of the day, I think you make decisions to make sure one is supporting the other. It's also a huge strength as well. She can bank on me, I can bank on her in terms of how we move forward, how we take risks when we are trying to do things. At the end of it, it's a lot is also about risk and reward, and one should be able to take risks. So having such kind of foundation has helped both of us take risks whenever we had to, with our jobs, roles, and things that we do. The nuances of it in terms of how we manage it with kids, etc. I think you one figures it out after you've done it for a couple of years in terms of how to make sure that this works. For sure, I can tell you we don't talk Amazon leadership principles at home. We don't talk. That's on the lighter note, but yeah, but then you figure it out.
So one more thing, you said that you got your first job offer in 2014 abroad. Then 2017 also you were made an offer which you kind of overlooked. Finally, you did move. So there are a lot of officers who intend to go abroad and settle in. What kind of changes or how does it impact? I mean, would you have something to say for such a big geographical change?
There are many success stories of people, moving international, making it successful, and people have taken different paths. So I can tell you, I have a huge community of army officers who are in and around this area. We actually get together, we talk, we do all things that you would expect in a party in India. We can kind of have a very similar setup here as well. So there are folks who've made it. Everybody's taken a different route. Some people have studied first and then taken the transition. Some people have, worked in organizations and been successful in those organizations and were deputed to this side of the world depending on their accomplishments. So I'm probably would fall in this second category in terms of having worked in an organization and doing so on and so forth. So it's people take different routes, to get into this thing. But again, why are we going abroad is a question that one needs to be very clear on. And why do you want it? It comes with its own sets of challenges. It's not a one-way street where there are only win-wins here. It comes with its own sets of challenges, families, commitments back home, things, kids, and one has to be also very clear. When you change too many things at the same time, you tend to fall. If you are changing a job, if you are changing the kind of job that you do, if you are changing the environment, one should only change one or two things at one point of time. If you change too many, two or three, the risk of failure compounds very high. So when I switched, I was only changing country. I was not changing job. I was not changing my ecosystem. I knew how Amazon works. I knew how this is. So it was easier for me to navigate. If one is changing, let's say one is trying to make a, you know, career progression, and you're now doing your first job and also trying to, so you get the point. Like when you change too many things, chances of success are very, very low. So one should see at what stage is one ready to take this on. And of course, the other party also has to be ready because there's a lot of other regulations, restrictions, and all of that in terms of work permits and all the challenges that we face. I hope that
So
answers.
some questions now which are from the audience perspective, and Now you are where you are in Amazon,
Hmm.
and the fact that you agreed to come to us, the platform, and guide us. How else do you help other officers? I've heard a lot, but I would like to know it from you.
I think, like I said, I was the first of the few that joined Amazon. And it was very early days in Amazon. I think one of the biggest high points that I had after joining Amazon for 1 year, and like I said, I was one of the first few to join into a corporate setup. It was not a warehouse setup where there's a prone expertise of army officers doing well. It was in a corporate setup, and one of the high points that I had was after a year when the senior most Amazonian in India called me and said, "How can we get other people like yourself?" That was a high point for me. I think I still remember that conversation. I still remember that day. That okay, I felt okay, I have a right in terms of this. So, and thereafter, of course, we built a whole bunch of things in terms of how we can channel, funnel additional people, leaders who come on board. All of this is like 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16. By the time it was 2016, 17, we had a huge representation of army officers in Amazon. And I think now Amazon and army have become, or defense, sorry, let me not use the word army here. Amazon and defense has become synonymous to each other. It's probably a destination for a lot of people who are leaving the armed forces. And it's also a likely destination for a lot of Amazon teams. They want to hire these people. So rest everything is history. I don't think this place now needs a lot of active uh, contribution from my side. But I think over the years, the formative years between 2012 and 2017, when there was hardly any representation in teams and everything, one is some direct involvement in terms of setting up these processes, in terms of how do we recruit. Second, being a brand ambassador of defense people. 2012, I remember, since being the only army officer, and when I started to source army profiles, uh, I was actually called for every interview. Like, we have no idea what this person does, and can you also help with this thing? So I think those investments in formative years have helped reach this partnership where it is. And to be honest, and over the last couple of years after moving here, my active role has reduced quite a bit. I'm not actually going to, let's say, these seminars in India and so on and so forth, except the one that we are doing right now. But yeah, I think those have been some areas that I think I could make a difference, and extremely proud of it as well,
Oh,
beyond the one-on-one interactions and mentorships that I could provide.
so since you have interviewed officers actively for Amazon roles, and as you said, at times you have also mentored one-on-one, what are those specific skill sets which you find are need to be made up so that people are able to get through the Amazon interviews? Officers, I'm talking about.
This is a very important question that you're hitting on. I think let me answer it in a different way first. Before getting into the things that need to be made up, let me first quickly touch upon things that one has and one should be proud of and build. A lot of army officers already have. So I think number one, when I think about and when I reflect on my journey, the traits that have helped me be successful is the man behind the machine matters. This is a very standard defense thing. We care for our people, and they are the ones who make things happen for us. So when I think about my journey in Amazon, it's been a lot of building the ground floor, building the foundation of a lot of organizations, and that's where I've played a very important role. Once the ground floor and the first few floors are ready, thereafter making a building from 6 floors to 40 floors is doable. But for these foundational, I have relied on teams, I've relied on my people, I've relied on this thing, and I think that people, and this is the space where I've actually bent rules to make sure that we have the best of the people. So I think that's people leadership obviously is a given. uh, I recall perseverance is the second space. I think is a big trait, is a high positive for army officers that can come. My CO or whatever would not accept a no unless I've tried it out in all spaces and in all different ways. And that's something which is again very, very critical, especially with the kind of problems that I was trying to solve. Can we solve it this way? Can we solve it this way? Can we try other things? And that's the kind of attitude one needs to have. I think the other skill that is very critical that is there in many army officers, and we should, is the ability to, you know, be in the weeds and the details, the ability to zoom out. And one needs to be able to do both of these. Most successful people that I've met can do both. You can zoom out, take a look, operate here, and then zoom in if something is required and actually get into the weeds and details of things. And I do it quite a bit. I have no idea how operations in Japan work, or I have no idea how Germany labor laws and compliance are critical for us to lead. So while I'm trying to run a global organization that's spread across so many different countries, and I need to take a zoom out view, there are times when I need to get into the weeds of it, like get below the vehicle to operate at the nuts and bolts to understand what the issue is. So ability to switch between these two positions is important, and I think army folks can be able to do that. Speed to execution, interpersonal skills. I think I talked a lot about it. Uh, Decision make, probably I'll pick it up separately. That's a different topic altogether. In terms of, I feel that in most cases, what we are recognized is the kind of high speed decisions that we can make. That is the metric that corporate world prioritizes and optimizes. If Jeff Bezos is making decisions that impacts million people and hundreds of billions of dollars, you know, at my level, I make decisions that impact few hundred millions, maybe a few thousand people. The person on the field might make a decision that impacts 200 members at a site, and and XYZ. So the kind of decisions that you make and how tough those decisions are is what defines success. And I think army officers have had experiences where they made critical decisions on the fly with little information. How we translate that into the corporate world is a skill that is required. A bridge needs to be created, but that core fundamental is present. Now, these are things that are present. You just need to polish them. Now, things that I feel in my interviews that is the number one reason for a lot of people don't not making it is self-critical. So it's hard for us in the armed forces to self-critique things that, hey, here's where I failed. Here is what didn't work. In most cases, it's very tough for, I find, for defense officers to say, talk about failures, talk about mistakes, talk about things that didn't work, and which is not how the world works. If you never failed in something, you're probably doing a job which is much below your level. Like if when someone comes and says, hey, this will happen and there's a 99% this will work, I will make it work, the first thought that I think is we have over invested in this work. There's a basically you've given a you've given a JCO type work to a young officer because there is no chance of failure here. So I think we have to think through. Maybe that was a bad example. Please ignore if that was. But the gist of it is that every time we do something, there has to be a 60% chance of success. Otherwise, we are leaving a lot on the table. And if you're not failing, then you're probably not taking hard bets or you're not working on the right problems, so to say. But it never comes across. When I ask, people are very shy to talk about failures and mistakes. A couple of others, not questioning the data, not. I'll come to data separately. Not questioning why, how. We are looking for these things. These are traits which are critical and important. Question every process. Question everything. I think in some ways this is one space where we could maybe express a little bit more. I think the other is data. I know the ecosystem doesn't inhibit or is not very easy to bring information, do data analysis, and use data-driven decision making. But in the longer run, in corporate, data-driven decision making is what helps remove hierarchies, help remove other things. And this is one space where the examples didn't come through. There are a couple of other areas, but I think these are the top that I should stick and pass it back to you.
So I'll rephrase what you said for the officers. What Sir said was that, and I'm going to be slightly more direct. Let's come out of that training or teaching of a zero error syndrome. And when you're going for an interview with Amazon, it's okay that you share that, there have been projects you took and they did not give the results you're expecting. And what would be more important is that what corrective measures probably you took after that and kind of, try to correct the course and reach where you wanted to. Because what he was essentially trying to say was that, if you have been successful at the first go or something, then it's too easy a task, and doing too easy tasks are not going to take you where you want to be. And officers try to come across as that zero error syndrome professionals who are always going to be correct. Second, try to be more data oriented. So these two things should help you more when you're going for your job interviews with Amazon. Sir, it's been a wonderful interaction. I have
You gotta focus on yourself, on your faith, on your dreams, on your mind, on your health, yeah.